Welcome to Through Your Lens, the podcast exploring inspiring, heart-led individuals who live life on their own terms. I'm your host, Tom Rawlins. Today, my good friend and marketing guru, Matt Travers, is in the studio. After many years driving exceptional results in the advertising agency world, Matt's attention is now sharply directed towards the world of AI. He's traveled the globe, learned from the best in the business, and has now launched his very own AI agency, BRAIVE.com.au. It helps brands harness the power of AI. In this episode, we're cutting straight to the chase. How can you leverage AI's power to work smarter, not harder, and free up more time for what truly matters? Get ready for some awesome insights from AI marketing guru, Matt Travers. Let's dive in. Matt.
Tom.
What was one of the most difficult moments in your life that in hindsight ended up being a bit of a blessing?
In my life? Wow. I would probably say starting Sunny over 6 years ago now. I was living in New Zealand and I had a signed job offer for PlayStation in London where I was going to go, and the opportunity came up to move to the Sunshine Coast, where I'd always envisioned it as old people and boring, to be perfectly honest, to start my own, with partners, digital advertising agency. Yeah.
Why was that difficult? I mean, the obvious, starting a company isn't easy, but why was it difficult, and why did it become one of the best things you've done?
It was difficult because at that point in my career journey, I'd always envisioned London as somewhere you have to go if you want to be a successful marketer, or New York or the likes. And I had it right there in front of me. And this other opportunity came up to have an ownership of something. And that was equally something that I saw in my career trajectory. I just never envisioned it happening so soon. So classic imposter syndrome of, am I ready for this? You know, am I giving up an amazing opportunity overseas to start something that might fail? It was definitely pretty tricky.
And a bit of context, I think you already had your own digital agency running, or you were freelancing?
Prior to Sunny? Yeah.
What did that look like?
Yeah, for sure. So I was freelancing on the side for a handful of clients. It was the quintessential go to the full-time job 8 to 5 and then 5 to whenever you fall asleep, work on those clients and, you know, draft up some really crappy invoice and, you know, some template you find on the internet and fire that away, and definitely getting underpaid for the work that you're doing. But yeah, went into it with just that teeny tiny bit of experience.
How many, was it just you?
Yep.
Just you running, and your clients must have been having some success at that time?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, it was only a small amount pre-Sunny. But yeah, the thing that I loved about it the most was the agility, not having approval layer after approval layer of doing things. And I think the clients appreciated it too, dealing straight with the person that was actually doing the work for them.
So how did a fairly large advertising agency find you and see you and go, hey, this kid knows what he's doing, let's get him on board, and you've ended up being quite a pivotal part of the company? Like, how does that happen? Yeah,
for sure. So my first ever role in the industry was at an agency in Brisbane. That was a primarily digital advertising agency. And part of that role, our clients needed some traditional media. The agency I was at the time didn't offer that as a service. However, there was an agency on the Sunshine Coast that did. I became the conduit between the two agencies, and I must have impressed Roger, who's now my business partner, when I was, a little 19-year-old know-it-all in Brisbane, because he was the one who called me when I had that signed offer to, the London job in front of me, and suggested we kick something off together.
So it sounds like you're an entrepreneur right from the very get-go. Where's that come from?
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, the word itself has a lot of stigma associated with it. People just posting little inspirational quotes all day, every day. I don't think that's entrepreneurialism. But the earliest thing I can remember would be when I was in high school. So I worked at McDonald's, and a lot of the kids, I looked a little bit older. So a lot of the kids who smoked, it was a lower socioeconomic suburb in Brisbane. I didn't smoke, and they would often give me, $20 to go buy them a pack of ciggies, give me $5 on the side. And I thought, no, there's got to be a better way here. So I started importing clove cigarettes from Indonesia in bulk, $2 cost pack, and reselling them for 20. Which was good. And I experienced my first taste of profit, which was really nice. Shout out to capitalism. And eventually I got an email from the Australian Federal Police saying, yeah, you can either stop or here are the fines. So I stopped and went down a much more ethical profit pathway, if you will.
Right. So you were selling cigarettes on the side, your full-time job at Macca's or part-time job.
Yeah.
What else were you making any other cash on the side or any other hustling going on in your teenage years?
Yeah, around about the same time. I can't remember how I came across this job, but there was a roofing restoration company whose sole marketing strategy was to go on Google Earth, which was quite new at the time, look for houses that had decaying roofs, draft up a personalised letter, print it out, put it in an envelope and mail it to them. And somehow I got the job of doing that, earning 50 cents per letter. Punched out a bunch in a first day, and I was like, it's not worth it. This is too time consuming. So then that's when I first discovered Microsoft Excel and a few various other tools stitched all together to do it kind of on repeat automatically. And they weren't too happy when I handed them an invoice for many thousands of dollars, which they refused to pay. So luckily I hadn't posted the letters yet. So that's also where I learned to negotiate.
And how old were you? Sorry.
I think at that time I was about 15.
What 15-year-old is trying to start a business with working with Microsoft Excel? And
I didn't even.
What's wrong with you?
Lots. I didn't even think of it as starting a business. It was just, okay, how do I get the most amount of money out of this time period, I guess. So, yeah. And I think growing up, we weren't by any stretch of the measure, in poverty. We had a really nice upbringing. But, I never got pocket money or all those kinds of things.
Yep.
So I was looking for the fastest path to my own pocket money, if you will.
Yep. Yeah. Own independence.
Yeah.
And so Roger must have seen that in you in the early days, that you had that spark, you were keen to learn, you're a hard worker. Just on that, what would you say to young entrepreneurs these days? Any advice for them getting started?
Yeah, for sure. Start by starting. I've noticed a lot of people have the best plans and, theories and everything, but unless you're actively executing it, it means nothing. Be okay with rejection and failure. And I'm not talking about, doing 100 cold calls a day. If that's what you need to do, then that's what you need to do. But having an element of no shame. If you have a service offering that you're not quite sure how it's working, or a product where you're not quite sure if it's there yet, who cares? Launch it. Get some feedback from the market. And if someone tells you it's the worst product in the world, don't get defensive about it. They might have a point, and you really need to listen to them and adjust and evolve. Some of the biggest failures I've ever seen are people who don't listen to their customers.
How do you deal with fear?
I love it. Yeah, it probably drives me a lot, the fear of the unknown, of how things are going to evolve and operate. I'm at an interesting point now where I have a healthy or unhealthy mindset around it's all going to work out no matter what happens. I think you have to back yourself when it comes to fear. But other than that, embrace it, use it as a motivator, as opposed to, going into, how there's fight, flight and freeze. Don't go into freeze. If you can try and I'm no psychologist. So for those of you playing at home, I'm not too
Disclaimer.
sure. Yeah, exactly. But the more you can become friends with your fear, the further you'll go.
Were there moments where you experience fear, that feeling in your gut, times when you can't sleep in building Sunny and building a business?
Yep.
And how'd you overcome them?
Yeah, massively. So we launched technically January 1st, 2019. And we had a ripper first 12 months. And then we all know what happened in the first quarter of 2020. Obviously, we won't go too deep into that, but it impacted us like it impacted any other business.
Yep.
And the heartbreak that came with going so well for 12 months and then, basically falling off a cliff overnight was immeasurable. So that was definitely super challenging. How got through that was with Sunny's business partners, to be perfectly honest. There was nothing off limits. A 2 a.m. phone call to chat something through was the norm throughout those periods. So leaning on other people is definitely not a weakness. It's a strength. And just taking the expertise of some of Sunny's other business partners as well.
What was it like going from running your own show essentially to working with a big team and working as a partnership, trying to build something? Was that hard to adjust to, or
not really, because in the early days of Sunny, so Sunny Digital was just me for I think 3 months until we made our first hire. So the only real difference was I had an office and I was going somewhere day in, day out to work on this specific thing rather than after the full-time job.
I've seen how you interact with your marketing team.
Yep.
You crack the whip, you're a brutal bot. No, just kidding. You're super friendly. Your level of care for how they're doing outside of work as well as inside of work is like really inspiring, to be honest. It's really cool to watch. Why is that important, do you think? Why is it important to treat your marketing team with respect and make sure they're happy?
I think it's huge. I think you should treat people how you want to be treated. And by the time I had co-founded Sunny, I had experienced a lot of bosses. And equally, I'd experienced a lot of management styles that I didn't like. So weaving that into building the team and the culture and the DNA of that was super critical. I also think these people are choosing to work for brands that I created. I want that to perpetuate and evolve and continue by the time they leave Sunny, because let's be real, people aren't going to work for you forever. I want them to leave with a positive outlook and positive memories on how they were treated. Everyone's an adult. I don't think, the days of looking down on your staff as beneath you are anything anyone should be proud of. So everyone's an adult, one team, treat them fairly, treat them, reward them proactively, all of that kind of stuff.
All right, a quick word from one of our sponsors and then we'll get right back to the show. Today's sponsor is, it's me, Tom from Raw Lens. At Raw Lens, we create impactful video and stills content that captivates your community. If you're a business, organization, or individual with a message to share, then let's chat. Book your free Creative Spark session today at rawlensmedia.com. Let's bring your vision to life. Okay, back to me in the show. We were on a shoot the other day. We were working together. We were filming. And I noticed, often this happens on shoots. We might be filming with the client, but then we might need someone else just to be an extra or be in the shot. There was a receptionist in this situation and she helped out and she was great. I could see your mind just ticking over constantly. You ran off to the bottle shop, got her a bottle of wine, said thank you on the way out the door.
Yeah.
This isn't the first time I've seen you do something like that. You're constantly thinking about service and care. Why is that important? And how has that held you in good stead over the years?
Yeah, for sure. I think super important. It's the little 1%ers that are easy to fall off people's minds, but often make the most difference in terms of how they remember you and how you made them feel. I think regardless of what industry it is, the variability in terms of product or service offering is often so thin. So take a media agency, for example. At the end of the day, they can all buy TV. They can all buy meta ads, whatever modality it is. Albeit some do it a lot better than others. The key difference I've always found in a service-based business is how you treat people and the proactivity. Are they calling you, chasing you on things, or are you proactively giving them an update? It's those kinds of things that just make all the difference and often give you a longer runway. So in the media world, if you're building a new campaign for a client that is going to take, say, 4 to 6 weeks to actually start delivering results, if you've already built up an expectation of service and made them feel really calm and respected, then you often get a longer runway to achieve those results. Whereas if you haven't put the effort into those, intangibles, they're the campaigns where you're getting phone calls 2 minutes into launch going, what the hell? Why haven't I achieved $1 billion in sales yet?
How important are client relationships to you?
Huge. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. It's something we've always focused on at Sunny in terms of growing slowly and deliberately. And what I mean by that is if we get, a handful of new clients come on, other businesses might go, awesome, let's grow. Let's, go hire two more people or whatever, or, whatever it may be. But with Sunny, we've always balanced capacity with clients. So although your margin might look better if you've got a team of say 20 and you've got 100 clients, are those 100 clients going to be long-term clients if the team of 20 are stressed to the absolute wall and then your employee turnover is massive? Or are you better off having 80 clients and 20 staff and then growing deliberately and slowly to balance capacity with profitability?
Well said. Last year, I think, it was last year, you went to New York.
Yes.
Went on a little trip. Why'd you do that for?
It's New York, first of all. New York was the second stage of the journey. I went to Cleveland, Ohio for the first stage, which start of last year, I put a lot of effort in my own sort of free time into trying to figure out who the quality voices in marketing AI were. Because, every marketer sees it going down that way. But when I was looking at it going, I was like, okay, I don't learn from, going to really thin conferences with inspirational quotes, which unfortunately in the Southern Hemisphere is all I could find. Found one in Cleveland, Ohio, which on paper and from some of the recordings from last year looked the complete inverse of that, which was really practical tips, really knowledgeable people, and people not with a sales agenda. There was just information sharing for the good of the industry. So made the decision to go to Cleveland, Ohio to that conference, which was unbelievable. And then following that, just took a week off in New York, which was incredible.
How amazing. What did you learn at this conference? What did you find out about AI and where we're heading?
So much. I guess to boil I think it's 4 days, 3.5 days, to boil all of that into one outtake of what I found out was America is about 5 to 7 years ahead of us when it comes specifically to marketing AI, and arguably further in other industries and categories. And it was just interesting to see how AI within their society is just a hygiene factor. It's not this big scary thing. Everyone's up to scratch with it. They've got a lot more job titles that are necessity in their organizations over there. AI specialist, AI marketing manager, whatever it may be, not just for the enterprise level, but for small and medium businesses too. And their literacy was just so far beyond anything of your average Australian marketer or, whatever industry it is. And it was equally scary as it was opportunistic, because I looked at it and I was like, okay, typically Australia follows America in the marketing space, or, the Londons, wherever it may be. It's like naturally Australia has to catch up here at some point. And at the time, Australia was one of the most, well, in a lot of ways still are one of the most risk-averse nations in the world. You overlay the big scary world of AI onto that, it's a recipe for Australians coming dead last. So I didn't want that to be the case. I came back with a lot of thoughts and a lot of ideas around that.
What decision did you make there and then in that moment?
Yeah, I made a decision that it was definitely the path I wanted to go down. But similar to what I was talking about before, how it's not so much specifically in the Southern Hemisphere, but globally, people profit on shiny promises and flashy crap, effectively. It's very easy to make AI sound cool when you've got, an overlaid voice of Morgan Freeman or Matthew McConaughey or whoever it may be. And fear-mongering on the other side is one tactic a lot of people have been using to build their audience in the AI space. What I really wanted it to be was practicality. What people really need to know, what they don't need to know, but then tying that to the margin in their business. It's one thing to have a cool new AI tool integrated in your business. How are you measuring that? Is your profitability increasing? Is your staffing cost going up, going down? Is AI on your org chart? Like, how does it look, feel, all of that kind of thing?
Yep. What do you fear might happen for businesses in Australia if they don't adapt to AI?
Yeah, for sure. The cost of inaction is a very slow and painful profitability death, unfortunately. And that's not me fear-mongering. That's unfortunately a fact. Your competitors will surge right ahead of you. The worst thing in Australia is equally the best thing for businesses and brands, though, which is slow adoption in Australia means they have longer to catch up. But inevitably, there will come an intersection where, competitors do catch up, and what is able to be done with AI from a smart marketer or business owner is going to just kill their competitors effectively.
Now, going back to New York,
yep.
I can see you're so passionate about marketing and the digital space, and in true entrepreneurial spirit, you registered a business name right there and then at the conference.
Yeah.
What was that all about? What was your idea at that time? What was that urgency to just jump on this ship and go, yep, this is where we're headed?
Yeah, for sure. I saw a pretty big opportunity just, realizing how many years Australia was behind and seeing all of these businesses in the States flourish. So I registered through ASIC and, bought the domain name and all of that. But I really didn't know what I was going to offer or how I was going to offer it, to be perfectly honest. I just knew I wanted to get started, and by committing to something, by having that, company rego and domain name, and I think I made the logo then and there too. So it was probably the first logo I did. We'll do a rebrand in a few years, but it was just the space where I saw the future going. And it was a space for me personally where I have been in media and marketing for 15 years. And sure, things change at a pretty rapid pace in terms of, updates on this channel or, privacy laws over here, whatever. But that hasn't been enough for me. I wanted something where I knew nothing about. Although I did know a fair bit by that point, I wanted something that I knew was going to really challenge me to kind of reignite that flame.
What was it? What's the name of your business that you registered?
BRAIVE, but AI in the middle. So
very nice.
There you go.
And so you've had a bit of time now I love that inspiration. You didn't know exactly all the pieces of the puzzle, but you knew you wanted to register the name, get into this game because that's where the world is heading or is already there in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
What have you learnt? How have you put those puzzle pieces together since that conference? And what do you offer? What does BRAIVE offer?
Yeah, for sure. So key thing would be AI literacy to start with. So workshops and education for teams. But again, not inspirational quotes and things that they're never going to be able to afford. It's customized to their business and, their current AI maturity, data readiness, all of that, making sure that they understand what they're talking about, because anyone can go and sound smart when it comes to AI, but the bridge connecting that sounding smart to truly understanding it. So going in, helping businesses do that, setting them up with a quality roadmap and specific to the marketing team as well. Every business should have an AI roadmap, but a layer below that, every business's marketing team should have an AI roadmap. And it's not starting with the tools at all, and I've been guilty of it before. You see a shiny new AI tool, you sign up for the demo, you see something cool, show all your mates how cool, and starting with things like cultural sensitivities, ethics, bias, all the considerations that aren't sexy, but are so necessary. And the thing with AI that these roadmaps really help businesses understand is knowledge has become so democratized across whatever industry it is. It's really coming down now to asking the right questions. So we spend a lot of time with businesses uncovering what their key problems are before we even look at tools. If you have a really good understanding of your problems, the tools will be super straightforward to figure out which ones are going to plug that hole. Moving on from that, automations, workflows, and AI agents helping basically AI the shit out of business processes for a lot of teams and brands. And then custom consulting as well. So if there's a really specific problem, we can go in and help that.
Amazing. How do people avoid the smoke and mirrors of what's out there? I guess in Australia, specifically speaking, what's being marketed as AI solutions.
Yeah.
Like, how do you tell what's real, what's not?
Yeah, I don't blame them. It is super hard at the moment. There's definitely some sources out there that are really high quality, and similar to, I guess, the way at Brave that we do it is a fully agnostic approach. So we don't care if a certain AI tool sales rep has a target to hit. If it's not the right solution for you, then we won't recommend it. You can use AI to build AI in terms of the educating yourself piece. There's many ways to do it, but if you find a few good sources, set up some workflows or automations to get those insights delivered into your inbox every morning. But I would start by looking at all the various information sources with a very big filter of what's their agenda here. So, yesterday we saw Elon and X release Grok 3, which is great. It's a cool tool. But everything they say in terms of it's the best model, it outperforms every other model, that's coming from them. Like, who's the independent agnostic filter that's going to actually uncover for you? Is that true? Is that right? How does this impact me? So I would just look at every information source you look at with a bit of skepticism and read it through that lens.
All right, a quick word from one of our sponsors and then we'll get right back to the show. Today's sponsor is, it's me, Tom from Raw Lens. At Raw Lens, we create impactful video and stills content that captivates your community. If you're a business, organization, or individual with a message to share, then let's chat. Book your free Creative Spark session today at rawlensmedia.com. Let's bring your vision to life. Okay, back to me in the show. AI, in some circles, and I know you won't like hearing this, but it might be the fact in Australia anyway that AI could be used as a dirty word, especially for certain industries like creative industries. People are worried about losing their jobs to the machine, so to speak. Yeah. Can you dispel any myths there, please, from one creative to another? Am I going to be out of a job? That's all I want to know, Matt.
Absolutely not. The thing with AI and jobs, displacement is a fact. It's going to happen, but displacement doesn't necessarily mean loss, right? Creative industries are under the microscope currently because a lot of the AI tools out there are leaning on that creative pillar of solving a lot of those problems or, being able to deliver, instantly generated ads or videos or whatever. I would argue for any marketer looking to implement those kinds of tools, you're still going to have a human check them and brief them correctly, which is actually a bigger job than people think. Unless you don't care about your brand, then sure, trust it.
Auto, just create and then walk away, which never ends well.
Exactly. Yeah. But the other key consideration for those creative types is if, let's hypothetically say I've got a team of 10 graphic designers or videographers, right? Instead of thinking, how can I get that team of 10 down to 5 with the same output? Why would you not be thinking, how can I give those 10 videographers and graphic designers 20 more hours each in their week to focus on things like brand health? What's the next 6 months of planning and roadmaps? Like all of those things. Doubling people's capacity is an amazing thing. It's, I think where some brands will go wrong is looking at it through the lens of how do we halve our workforce with AI in the quickest way possible.
Yeah. It's a mindset shift, isn't it? It's going from, it's going to take over and I'm going to have to get rid of people to no, it's going to leverage our business and I can leverage our people.
Absolutely. AI won't take your job. Someone who's really good at using AI will.
Awesome. Love that. You're starting a business again. Here you are again.
Yeah.
What does that feel like? Does it feel fresh? Does it feel new?
You know those photos of presidents pre and post term? Well, I'm not calling myself like president of the United States, but how they look so like happy and full of life, and then the end of their term they look like skeleton.
Barack Obama had a few more greys after his term.
Yeah, so I might look a bit older in another few years. But yeah, no, super excited. I love the pressure. Love helping businesses ultimately. Not selling to them, but actually delivering value in whichever form that materializes.
Where do you find most joy in your work, do you think?
Delivering on promises is huge for me, and actually seeing how it impacts other people's livelihood, like increasing a margin from 20% to 25% for a medium business. The impacts are so huge for them. And what I really like about dealing with clients, and especially now in the AI space, isn't necessarily being first to provide a solution or something, but being the first person to provide it correctly.
I've got a crystal ball in front of me. I'm looking at the year 2035.
Okay.
What does Australia look like in the world of AI in business? How are we using it? What do you predict?
Yeah, wow. 10 years. That's
okay. That's actually probably too far.
Okay.
Let's go. Let's go 3 years.
Yeah.
What does AI look like in Australia in 3 years, do you think?
Yeah, for sure. I think where we're headed is AGI, artificial general intelligence, which is human and machine synonymously operating together. I think what we'll see, what has just come to really topical fruition is AI in various modalities reaching a really good point. So, LLMs doing written language, you can produce videos, you can produce images, music, whatever it may be, which is really awesome. We're currently in a phase at the moment of agentic AI. You would have seen things like OpenAI Operator, where it can do tasks for you as a human, make decisions, reason in real time, so on. I think we're going to go into a period over the next few years where that continues to evolve and get better, because it's still fraught with a lot of risk at the moment for businesses looking to integrate it. There's going to be a robotics element over the next few years where actual physical machines start to integrate a lot of the AI software, if you will, and impact a lot of various industries. But in the context of marketing, I truly believe we're heading towards a space where take a ChatGPT, for example, or any of the LLMs, you can prompt it to build whatever campaigns you want without ever logging into Meta ads or Google ads or whatever it may be. Post that, AI will start building campaigns for approval. We just had Valentine's Day. Let's say your marketing manager forgot about Valentine's Day. AI could have launched, run, and built a report on Valentine's Day for you. Again, fraught with risk, and you always want a human in the loop to approve things, check things. AI's over the past 2 years gone from a grade 8 student to an intern to beyond PhD level. So, it would be naive to think that it's only going to stop there. It's exponentially going to increase and grow.
Nice. You seem really fluid with change. You seem to be able to adapt to change easily, and I think that's going to hold you in really great stead with this revolution of AI coming at a rapid rate. I mean, just speaking generally, some people don't like change. Some people don't want to change. Do you have any tips for people to get used to that, get more comfortable with change?
I think one piece of it is educating people that change is necessary and unquestionably necessary for this period in human evolution. I saw a video the other day which someone compared the AI revolution to the splitting of the atom. So, and I mean, that's a bit up there, but it's not totally untrue. If you are scared of change and you only allow one little change in every 10 years, let it be this one. The changes to your business, your staff, it's going to impact every element of your life.
I think often with entrepreneurs, young, and maybe even more so older entrepreneurs who are maybe thinking about starting a business later in life, I feel like they often fall into the trap of thinking that they have to quit their job, have a successful business, and somehow make that work. But it's so difficult to do it that way in such a hard transition. What's your advice in terms of starting a business and entrepreneurship without jumping off a cliff? Yeah,
true. So I don't think you have to put a hard, date of when you quit everything and burn all the bridges and go and try it. It just comes down to how much you want it and how much of your free time that you might have historically spent at the beach or, doing whatever it is, you're willing to put into building it, whether that's after you get home from your job or on weekends or whatever it may be. I think another key piece to it is not having shame in, publicly going out there and boasting that you've started something. Like, if it fails in 6 months, who cares? Like, you gave it a red hot crack. And I think a lot of people who matter will frame it in that way rather than it fails. They'll be more impressed you tried to give it a go rather than saying, oh, it failed.
Absolutely. I remember starting Raw Lens and working a part-time job as a waiter at a surf club, restaurant, and I didn't have any shame. Well, I actually remember serving someone who I used to work with at one of the TV networks. Yeah. And I did sort of feel like, I was like a producer producing commercials 6 months ago, and now I'm serving you some fish and chips. Yeah. I'm like, society says that that's a failure and that's you doing well over here. But in the back of my mind, it was just huge inspiration to just make the business work. In the 100%. Background, I was building it. Yeah. And so, and I didn't have any shame. It's hospitality and whatever you've got to do in a part-time capacity is a great idea. And you'll learn things in that job as well. Totally. So yeah, no shame. Have a crack and it will inspire you to build the business anyway. Yeah, without a doubt. I similarly, when I was, not when I was at Sunny, but when I was doing my own thing prior to Sunny, I was in a marketing role, but I would also just pick up some shifts to get some extra cash at a cafe that I could just funnel that cash into growing the business. And it was awesome because hospitality, what better place to network and hand out business cards? Probably shouldn't have done that, but still. And learning how to talk to people. Exactly. Yeah. Which in the digital age, I think people miss. But the skill set and the ability to talk to someone and also reveal a bit of yourself and say, oh, look, I'm just working at the cafe at the moment, but actually on the side, I'm building this business. 100%. You never know who you're talking to and what can come of that. Exactly. Human authenticity is paramount and you can't beat it in terms of connection and all of that kind of thing. Where is Matt Travers at most peace? Cooking. Yeah, I love it. I'm also at most peace, like headphones on, heavy metal playing and building something, doing something. I don't operate too well if something's at 80%, going from 80 to 100 year after year, refining it. I'm at peace in my happy place when I'm going hard and fast, 0 to 80. You're building something amazing at the moment. Thank you so much for coming on the show and telling us a bit about AI and all the positive and the good things about it. I feel like it's some negativity, but it can be used for good and Absolutely. Help people and help people in business and creatives like me. Hopefully. 100%. Yeah, no, definitely. Thank you. Happy to help out. Where can people find you? How can people learn more about AI and implement roadmaps that absolutely. You're offering? So BRAIVE, BRAIVE.com.au. That's me. And happy to hear from anyone. Thanks, Matt. Cheers. Cheers, Tom. Hey, everyone. Thanks for watching the show. This podcast is truly a passion project for me and the small but awesome team behind the scenes. We pour our hearts into bringing you these honest and insightful conversations. But I can't tell you how much it helps when you hit that follow or subscribe button. The show gets bigger, which means we can expand the production and we can continue to bring in amazing guests from all walks of life. Please help us to do this thing that we love and hit that follow or subscribe button. We appreciate you being here. Thank you.